Welcome back to Rüniverse. I'm Andrew, and this is the 5th of the Prism series where I go over each of the 8 facets of the universe. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at Trine, which is the orange facet here, the orange color. And here I have laid out 3 example mages. So we have Azusa, who is a Tenacity mage, Cantrell, who is a Stone mage, and Festus, a Destruction mage. So those are the 3 focus traits that we're going to be looking at on the mage. That is their magical focus, and then those traits will show up on cards, and sometimes it will matter what type of focus the mage has that evoked the card. And as I've done previously in the series, I'm going to be drawing some of the mechanical elements or representations of the facet and combining them thematically to these different traits that we see. So we're going to start alphabetically with Destruction. And even though Azusa was my example of a Tenacity mage, because she does have the Tenacity focus, she has the Trine gift. And again, that Trine gift shows up on a mage of each of the 3 different focus traits in Trine. But Azusa happens to be the Tenacity mage with the Trine gift. And I'm talking about the Trine gift now because it is very destructive. So it says this gift attacks all enemy mages' creatures for 2. So destruction is kind of a straightforward concept. So I don't think I need to explain why dealing damage to enemy creatures fits with that theme. Similar to last week's Emery focus, I think you'll see some simplicity here. Trine does have, I think, maybe a little bit more depth and variety, and I was able to draw some cleaner distinctions between the 3 themes here, but it is a pretty straightforward trait. I think I maybe started with some of the more complicated facets, so we're getting into some more simpler mode. Although we might see some more nuance in the facets before we close out the series. But for now, let's just go some more destruction. We have Boulder Strike, which is stone and destruction, but the effect of straight up dispelling a creature definitely seems like it fits in the destruction category. We've got Dispel Blast, also straight up destruction spell. Got that trait right on the card, and it lets you potentially dispel multiple enemy creatures at a time. Here we have a stone card, but with destruction in the name of the ability there, Avalanche of Destruction. In fact, maybe it should just be a destruction traded card, but basically this creature turns into an avalanche when it dies. And then Stone's Throw here, the common with the focus trait ability, cares about what type of mage evoked it. If it's a destruction mage, it's going to cost only 1 to evoke, which is nice, and it lets you straight up dispel a relic or attack for 2, making it on par with Heat with the extra versatility. Heat being a ruby spell that just deals 2 damage, but for 1 power, this costs 3 power, but if Destruction Mage can evoke it for 1. Next we have Stone, which thematically it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just about rocks. But Stone here in my presentation is going to be about just kind of bigness, just being big and strong and durable. So Tenacity is very similar in theme there, but Tenacity, we'll get into that later, but it's going to be more about taking a proactive stance at defense, whereas Stone is just things that kind of where it comes naturally. It's just kind of intrinsically big. And I'm starting off with an oddball because this is Yeti, which obviously is not very big. It's just a level 1, but it plays into the theme of things being big because big things are expensive. So Yeti just kind of helps out with that theme by giving a cost reduction. So it's not necessarily big or durable or strong itself, but it just helps out with that theme. Here on the other end of the spectrum here, we have one of the biggest creatures. 7 is at a pretty inefficient level because turn 3 and forward, each of your mages is going to make 3 power at a time. So this is kind of a weird number. You got to do 3, 3, and then another 3, and then you're going to have 2 left over, or you have to figure out how you're going to spend it if you want to be efficient. So 7 is an awkward number, but it is also very big, and Relentless means that it's going to be able to attack twice, which is very powerful from that uncommon there. We have Brick Moat, another one of the commons. This is the Stone Focus traded common, so if it's evoked by a stone mage, it gets an extra level +1 counter. So again, 4 is an inefficient number. On turn 2, maybe it's okay on if you're willing to invest in it. On turn 3, though, it becomes a little bit more efficient because you got to pay 6, and then you're going to spend 4 of that on here and figure out what you have to do with that leftover power. But again, inefficient, but big is kind of the theme of what's going on here. Again, non-multiple of 3 here is Cyclops. It's just big. It's a common and it has taunt, so it can help protect your location. Grenachnid, another little guy, but I decided to put it in this category because of that taunt. So it's not necessarily itself that is stone here, but it is providing a stoniness to your location, to your mage, or your other creatures, etc. Grumbear, we've got another taunt. So as you can see, Trine does have a good number of taunt creatures as opposed to some of the other facets. So Orth can definitely borrow from that as one of the more controlling facets, although its other neighbor, Ruby, probably would not want to play a lot of taunt creatures because they're more aggressive. Would rather have things like drive, but Trine gets to be in that middle ground where you can kind of do a big mid-range rocky strategy, or you can focus with Ruby and be more aggressive, or with Orth and be more defensive, or just play these straight up middling cards here like the Grumbear, which is a pretty solid uncommon level 4 with that strength ability for the cost of only 3. Another level 5 common here, we have Ogre, and then here is that Ruby aggressive side of things here. Instead of the taunt that we saw on the Cyclops, we have drive. So if you want to be attacking, you'll play the Ogre. Next up, we've got perhaps the stoniest of rares, and this is weird because I put the Tenacity word on it. I definitely do think that is a reasonable choice. It is very tenacious by the definition of the word. Just for the purpose of this video and the way I split them up, I ended up putting it into the stone category because it is big right off the bat. So you evoke it for 4, again, an inefficient number, except for maybe on turn 2, if you're willing to invest that way. But you're going to get a level 6 creature for the cost of 4, and if it dies, it just loses one of its Vim and drops down to level 5. Can still die again and drop down to level 4 and then die a 3rd time. So it's extremely stony in that sense that it's just coming out big and strong and durable, and it's going to take a while to erode this Trine Hulk away. And then we have the medium, the little brother version, the Trine Skulk, which is the same effect, right? It's the Vim and Might combination here, but instead of being a level 4, it's a level 2. And instead of having Vim 2, it just has 1 Vim. But this is still a pretty sturdy little guy. You only cost 2, and you get a level 3 because of Might. And again, if it dies, you still get to keep it as a level 2. Of course, if you're able to put more extra Vim on it in any other way, you can grow those Might abilities back up on those creatures. So another sturdy guy right out the gate here is Tusk, strength 2. So it's just cost 2 for a level 4. And it lets allies attack extra time. So it's a powerful, sturdy, straightforward rare. We have Yanflayer, cost 3 for a level 4. And it has Ward, so another little implementation of the stone or tenacity concept. But again, for this video, I made Tenacity more of a proactive thing, and this guy just comes out intrinsically with that durability. And finally, for the stone category, we have Yeti, another level 5 creature. This one isn't uncommon though, because it has Vim, which means you've got to kill it twice, which is probably just a little bit better than the drive or taunt, though arguably drive is really strong as well. But again, big and inefficient numbers. And finally, we'll take a look at Tenacity. So I don't have any surprise weird oddballs other than that Yanpi supporter we looked at a moment ago. Everything fit pretty snugly into one of the 3 categories here, so Trine is definitely one of the more straightforward facets. Strategically, there are a few different directions you can go if you want to focus on being defensive or aggressive. So I don't think it's quite as straightforward as the introductory Ruby or Emery, but maybe it is. Pretty close. Definitely not in the category of Thist or Quam with those type of complicated stuff going on. So anyway, let's get into Tenacity. And again, we're going to see a lot of crossover. We saw some Tenacity traits on the cards in the stone section, and here is a card in the Tenacity section with the stone trait right off the bat. And in fact, the word stone appears in the ability here. Stone's gift says before one of my mage's creatures is attacked, that creature gets a level +1 counter. So here, like I said, you're doing a little bit more proactively. You've got to spend this card that doesn't do anything else just to make your creatures more durable, in that they're going to be growing every time they're attacked, and your opponent is going to have to figure out whether they can make profitable attacks through that. Now this is a relic, so you're going to play this and it's going to immediately start taking effect. Of course, because of this specific effect, it won't apply until your opponent's turn, but there you go. Next up, we've got another relic here, Cantrell's Hammer. This one lets you embolden, pay 2, and task this relic to give one of this mage's creatures a face down Vim. So again, we're proactively increasing the lifespan of our creatures. So that's kind of what I put here into the Tenacity category. And of course, Vim is just a way for a creature to gain an extra life, but in combination with the Might ability that we've seen in some of the other cards that gain levels based on how many Vim they have, the Cantrell's Hammer can definitely grow the creatures in size as well. Speaking of which, we've got some more Might here with the Citralisk. So this looks a lot like the Trine Hulk, which was level 4 and has Vim 2, meaning it gets 2 Vim right off the bat, and it has Might 2, or rather it had Might 1, meaning it went from level 4 up to level 6. It's a level 2 and does not have any Vim, meaning its Might doesn't do anything. You've got to reinforce. You have to actively task the mage to give it Vim, but when you do, it then jumps up by level because of the Might 2. So the Citralisk can get up to level 4 real quick with just a single Vim, which it can gain through its own ability if you're willing to task your mage, of course giving up the power that mage would be generating, but through assists that is pretty feasible. So even though the Citralisk and the Trine Hulk look very similar through their numbers and their abilities because of the way they get Vim, the Trine Hulk being passively, I put that in the stone category, and the Citralisk being actively, I put that into the Tenacity category, if you wanted to make such distinctions. So they do end up having different play patterns, even though they have similar effects. Next up is another way to give Vim or provide Vim, especially for something that has Might here. So this is just a spell, but it says that it's attached to a creature as Vim, and that strength ability means that that creature is going to get level +1 in addition to having this card as a Vim. And it has the extra ability that when it loses this particular Vim, this card will return to your hand, and you can evoke it again on another one of your creatures on a future turn, potentially making this card pretty annoying as a recurring life. So your opponent, if they want to get rid of one of your creatures, they're going to have to do it all at once on their own turn, because otherwise you're going to get an opportunity to replay that durability. Next up, the Egg of Unerring Tenacity says, reinforce task me to have me become face down Vim for an ally creature. So again, we're seeing a lot of Vim here, a lot of creature survivability, and especially on big creatures, that's going to be annoying. So there's just a little guy, you can use him to guard, or you can turn him into something later, an extra life for one of your bigger creatures. Paranoid Barad. So this isn't directly improving its own survivability or strength, but when it is attacked, so making this very kind of a defensive trigger, you get to draw a card. So your opponent's going to be punished for attacking you, even though they're not going to be punished in a straightforward or tangible way. This is helping you out. And if they don't actually dispel the Barad when they do attack, then he'll be around for future turns, and they might have to attack him more times. And perhaps that makes him a good target for giving Vim. Another tenacious card with the stone trait is Rock Golem. So it has the unyielding ability that it just doesn't stop guarding. So extremely tenacious in that sense that once it is set as a guard, it's going to have to be dispelled pretty much, or it is not going anywhere. And as a level 6 creature, that might be hard for your opponent to do. Usually you can pop off a guard with just a single attack, even if it's just a level 1 sacrificial creature, but Rock Golem says, no, you've got to take me out completely or I'm not moving. Next, straight up, just the card called Tenacity, and this is also the Tenacity focused trait common here. So you attach it, another card that attaches as Vim, although this one attaches face down, but if it was evoked by a mage with a Tenacity focus, the creature also gets a level +1 counter, so it's just as a common, easy way to get Vim onto a creature. And again, in combination with a good number of creatures with Might, this can be more than just an extra life. And finally, we have the third Yanpi, the Yanpi Supporter common at level 2, and it can be tasked to have an ally take no damage next time it attacks. So very similar to providing Vim, but you can use the Yanpi Supporter every single turn to do that if you have a creature you want to attack with, but you're at risk of losing. Or, of course, as a level 2 creature, it can just attack for itself. So that's it for Trine. Thanks for taking a look at the orange facet with me. Let me know which of those cards was your favorite in the comments below. Stay tuned for next video's Prism Tour entry, which should be Saf, the blue underwater facet. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.